Hans is here, and he is strong. So, what does this Hulk of a man do? A bit of everything. He has many tools at his disposal. His base damage is 19, and each point of savagery increases it by 0.4, meaning that he can deal 29 damage at 50 savagery, only one less than Leatherface. However, this damage comes at a cost. If you feel like Hans has stamina issues, it's because he does. Unlike other family members, he consumes 80 points of stamina per swing, instead of the normal 17.5, meaning that he will always be consuming more stamina in general. It may seem small, but it adds up quick, so put a lot of points into endurance. Hans has 3 abilities: his Barge, Electro Traps, and Ripstall. His Barge deals 16 damage and costs 75% of your stamina to use. If you charge it, it will consume about 5% of your stamina per second. The standing up animation doesn't have many iframes, so a fellow family member can assist you in killing a victim. The best use for it is to knock a victim out when they're going through a crawl space or when they're grappling a fellow family. That way you deny Shu's fight. Electro traps can be put on metallic objects. This includes crawl spaces, gates, barricades, and all 4 objectives, meaning that they can be used for many things, either to block victim escape routes or traversal options, or defensively. They do 15 damage and require a bone scrap to disable, though they take less time to disable than other traps. His main ability, and a hot topic right now, is Ripstall. Ripstall is able to instantly revert objectives victims do. This closes up the exit even if it's tampered. The ability itself has a 120-second cooldown. It can be lowered to 72 seconds. It also ignores cooldowns after a victim turns off a gen or battery. This is incredibly powerful, but before people call him overpowered, I want to share my opinions after playing as and against him and some potential changes that can be done. Hans gave the meta a much needed shakeup. He is in my opinion a glue type character, being able to provide any team composition with much needed slowdown and delay. This means that more compositions are viable and he synergizes well with any other family member. His main weaknesses are his low movement, high stamina consumption, and lack of actual information. You can't tell if an electro trap is on or off with family vision, so you actually need to be around the area checking for them physically. He also punishes raw rushing and people waiting by exit gates. This is where my main problem with Hans is. I don't mind the fact that he can do this, but rather that it's on a 72-second cooldown. Ripstall should be a high commitment ability for the Hans players. Resetting progress is a big deal. You can still counter it, but it requires a lot of cooperation from the victim squad. They just need to push multiple objectives. That's why I would like to see the cooldown raised to 3 minutes. That way victims can coordinate and pressure other objectives in a reasonable window. This mostly concerns me for solo queue players, as they aren't always communicating and can be very unfun to miss a window simply because you didn't know someone was going to push an objective at a specific time. His traps and bars are balanced as they are easy enough to counter. The bars are situational and the traps you can brute force your way through reasonably. They also stop family players from using the gate, including Hans. However, a point of concern does come up with trap stacking. A hitchhiker, Hans, Nancy, and even a cook can stack defenses on certain objectives. This can be difficult to deal with for victims as they can only carry 2 items. So unless 2 victims are at a place at the same time, going through certain objectives can be a slug. So I want to propose 2 changes. Bone piles have their stacks increased to 5. They were nerfed in another area of TCM, and with the increase in trap characters, I think it's only fair that there are a few more bone scraps at the victim's disposal. And second, victims should be able to drop items on the ground. That way they can leave objective items in crucial places, so they can get more items if need be. Take a look at this example. For me to access the fuse box, I needed 4 items, 2 bone scraps, a tool, and a fuse. Thankfully there was a bones pile nearby and I didn't have to waste too much time, but if my team had not kept the family distracted, they would have been able to interrupt me at any time and reset the progress I did. As the game changes, new characters get added and the meta shifts, changes to all mechanics need to be made. On another note, I wanted to touch on the subject of Danny being useless against Hans. I disagree with it. Hans counters Danny, but he doesn't make him useless. Danny needs to be careful about what he tampers and when. You could bait Hans to Ripstall another objective while Danny tampers something, or even vice versa. Bait Hans to Ripstall a tampered objective and another one gets done normally. It's also worth noting that the objective remains tampered once Ripstalled, so any other character can go to the pressure tank, put another valve in, and turn it on again. And if done quick enough, Hans won't be able to Ripstall it. I also stopped using Insta-Study. That way I can inspect and tamper multiple objectives, which can add a lot of pressure to the family team. Hans honestly adds depth and strategy to the game. I also thought that Hans was broken beyond belief, but after I gave him a few days, he really isn't that bad to deal with. The fact he is slow and needs to be in a lot of places at the same time balances him out. Victims just have to play around that. He is nothing like Release Danny that had no counterplay besides killing him and the victims. The reason why Danny was so strong is because family tend to react to what victims do. Danny made it so you can't do anything once you react. The threat of tamper was too great and made family play in a very specific ways that could be countered by victims anyway. Hans does have counters. Just trick a few numbers and he'll be a very balanced character.